Woo, guys, a lot of different ideas there, and we will get to some of his comments about his future in Los Angeles in a few minutes. But let's start with where he ended, that he is basically going to be scoreboard watching how these kids do later in life in the hopes of creating this generational change in Akron, Ohio. And Ramona, I want to start with you. When you look at everything LeBron is doing off the court, what stands out as most significant to you?
Well, I think this is a huge thing for him, but I think in general, just his willingness to use his platform and speak out. I think when we look back on his career and his legacy, that is going to be at the top of the list about him not being afraid to use his platform on causes that are important to him.
Rachel, I would go with just things in general when it comes to kids, right? Like this particularly is something that involves children. Obviously, the stance he took with Trayvon Martin back in 2012, which is really where he started to find his voice. I know we started talking about this a couple of days ago, you and I. I think that's the thing that stands out the most to me is how involved he is when it comes to children particularly.
I'll never forget he had, when he goes back to Akron, he has this program, and if a kid misses school, they get a phone call from LeBron James. Now, it's a tape recording, okay? He doesn't call every single kid. But if you miss a day of school, you get a call from LeBron James saying, why weren't you in class today? It's incredible.
Absolutely, and those calls mean a ton to those kids, and they also get a call if they do well on a test. And again, as you say, Ramona, it's a robocall, but still, it's on the kids, family voicemail, and they save it and they show all their friends, and it is incentivizing. I think you're both hitting on something really interesting here, which is this idea that it's all the same thing, right? If you are interested and invested in your community, if you care about the issues facing groups that you think are underserved or that don't get a fair shake, that comes out in ways like charity and philanthropy, this physical school where he is giving these kids millions of dollars worth of advantages that they normally wouldn't have. But it also comes out in when you stand up and speak for some of those kids if they feel they're being targeted by police, or if, say, a community is hit by a hurricane. The same way we see, say, J.J. Watt spearhead hurricane relief, and we praise him for doing that in his community and raising millions of dollars. We see Carmelo Anthony just last week making a point that he didn't feel that the politicians took good enough care of the people of Puerto Rico in their moment of needing the hurricane. And I think athletes feel, hey, either you want me to care or you don't. Either I invest or I don't. And that comes in all different ways. And Ramona, you and I have talked about this before. Sometimes people want them to, okay, maybe not just shut up and dribble, but shut up, dribble, and donate, and don't have an opinion about the other stuff. But I think we see with LeBron, it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, I mean, I think he puts himself out there, and he connects in a way where you can't question his authenticity. You can't question whether he really cares. This isn't just a press conference. This isn't just a photo op. He really is putting himself out there. And I mean, I saw him with you, Rachel, and he looked a little nervous. Like, he looked a little like this was giving him goosebumps, right? More so than maybe even playing in a finals game. I think this was really touching, and it's not just about him having a political stance or. This is him putting himself out there because it is truly meaningful to him.
To your point, Ramona, yeah, he's present, right? We see him at these things, and it's not just the charitable things. It's just sometimes in everyday life. I remember when he played in Miami, he used to go biking. He would bike ride to the arena sometimes, and people would go with him. They'd be like, oh my God, there's LeBron. And he would take part in these things called critical mass, where anyone could go bike ride around the city, and it would be LeBron out there in the middle of all of it with all these people. There ended up being a commercial about it later on. But yeah, that's just who he is. He's present in all these situations.
Yeah, and again, we have seen so many athletes follow in his footsteps. We've talked about it just in this segment, the idea that when he did maybe take his first more political steps with Trayvon Martin, that opened the floodgates for so many other guys to feel like, okay, we can do that too. And of course, we saw that with athletes in the 60s and 70s. We saw it go away maybe a little bit with more athletes in the late 80s and 90s, and the fact that he has been the leader at the forefront of being more politically active, being more philanthropic. And even yesterday, we saw player after player after player on social media pick up the photos from his school, say, wow, man, that's how you get it done. And you have to believe some of those guys went home to their business managers, to their agents, to their wives, to their people in their lives and said, I want to do something like that. And if that change can domino too, that's going to be an incredible legacy. So that's the off-court stuff.